teen has critical injuries after being shot last night on Rochester's west side. He's one of dozens of victims of violence in Rochester this year.
The way the youth thinks now is if I go outside, that will literally be me next.
Good evening, I'm Don Alhart. Violence is a scary reality for some Rochester teens, as you've seen, and they talked about that today. City leaders heard powerful testimony from young people about how violence affects them every day. Chase Howell was there, says it was the teens who did most of the talking. Chase?
Yeah, Don, the summit was hosted by Monroe County Legislator Frazier and Senator Cooney, who wanted to hear how they can help teens who said today they're afraid, fed up, and need support. It's a scene not unfamiliar in Rochester. Another shooting, this time the victim, a 15-year-old boy, shot on Ringle Street Tuesday night. According to Rochester Police's open data portal, 40 people between 3 and 18 years old have been shot so far this year. 6 of them were killed.
That could have been me. Like, I could have been walking to the store, and like I said, I'm black with dreads and tattoos. I'm not hard to get mistaken for somebody that they looking for.
Young community members like Quantel Green participated in a Q&A Wednesday during a gun violence youth summit. Jalen Figueroa is 17 and helped facilitate the open discussion among the young speakers, city leaders, and adults.
I know people who have lost someone. I know people who were lost due to gun violence or gang violence or just violence in general.
Christopher Jean, one of the teenagers who spoke at the summit, says hearing about Julius Greer Jr., the 14-year-old shot and killed on January 2nd walking to a nearby corner store, makes him worry about his own safety.
It's scary because, like, they're all my same color. So it's like going outside is terrifying. The way the youth thinks now is if I go outside, that will literally be me next. Because, like, we're all in the same age group.
Green says people need to find other ways to solve their problems rather than picking up a gun.
It's a pride thing. Like, people just stuck in their own ways, feeling like, oh, he said this about me. Now I gotta go do this so I don't look like I'm scared or nothing, like I'm a punk or nothing.
And Don, the teens tell me they left today feeling heard and hopeful. Many of them saying it felt good that the adults were the ones listening for a change instead of the other way around.
So many lives touched by addiction and overdoses. Families who've lived through the loss, raising awareness here tonight. This is International Overdose Awareness Day, and the Monroe County Sheriff says there's no greater drug epidemic than the one in our community right now. Good evening, I'm Doug Embledge. Ginny has the night off. The county's been averaging about 130 fatal drug overdoses over the recent years. There have been 81 fatal overdoses so far in 2022. And tonight, 13 Wham's Carla Rogner spoke with some people who lost loved ones to this epidemic. Carla?
Yeah, Doug, and just a few hours ago, police say another Rochester resident overdosed and is currently recovering. This afternoon, families and activists gathered in Rochester to remember the lives lost to addiction, and they called on state leaders to step in and help.
JoJo was, wow. He was way ahead of his time as far as age.
26-year-old JoJo is one of the many faces of Rochester's opioid epidemic.
He loved life, he loved family. He really loved outdoors, fishing, stuff like that. You know, he was really heavy into music. Just a great kid, turned into a great man.
Jose Munez's son passed away last April after a long battle with addiction.
This was the last text I got from my son. So I made it to a shirt.
Jose and his family joining many others in Rochester whose lives have also been touched by addiction, like Carolyn Del Vecchio Hoffman. She lost her uncle, actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, from an accidental overdose in 2014.
He was the good uncle, you know, and he really cared a lot about the integrity of what he was doing and about the people around him.
As these families remember their loved ones, they're also raising awareness to end the stigma. Vigil organizers want the state to build overdose prevention centers across New York, places people can go to use drugs safely under the supervision of staff who are trained to use Narcan if someone overdoses. There are already 2 operating in New York City.
There's this common misunderstanding that people think that people just have a death wish if they're using drugs, when it's so not the case. Often people are in the midst of some of the most intense struggles of their lives and really just need access to services where they're at and to not be pushed to unrealistic standards.
The hope to prevent more lives lost, like 26-year-old JoJo and Carolyn's Uncle Phil. In New York City, officials say overdose prevention centers have already saved more than 200 people from overdoses. Activists today said they'd like to see some built here in Monroe County. In the newsroom, I'm Carla Rogner.
Tonight, landmarks across New York State are lit up with purple and silver for International Overdose Awareness Day. A live look there at the Fairport Lift Bridge tonight.
They are one of the largest groups with Rochester City schools, and some say Latinos are not getting a fair shake. A recent report found a drop in Latino graduation rates. And as Dan Schrack found out, the Ibero-American Action League points the finger of blame squarely on the district.
The Ibero-American Action League taking aim at the RCSD for creating what it calls a void for English language learners and their families.
And that is really concerning because we represent a quite large group of students within the district.
All of our accountability subgroups did increase in their graduation rate from the previous year, except for our Hispanic students.
During a March business meeting, a review of cohort graduation rates showed Latinos in the district were not making meaningful progress, with a 0.2% decline. The news prompting an investigation, resulting in this report.
So this report is really a reflection of from their perspective, why folks are exiting the district.
Analytics firm CGR interviewed 10 Latino administrators who left the district. Their findings detail a culture where staff felt devalued, overworked, and disrespected, ultimately leading to their departure.
So to see those assets leave us because they feel that they can be successful somewhere else is very heartbreaking.
Perez Delgado says that's exactly what's happening, adding the tug-of-war between the teachers' union, Board of Education, and administration does not put children first.
If we value bilingualism, then we need professionals, right, that are expert in that area, right? We need the leaders of our bilingual schools to be experts in English as a second language education, right? We need to make sure that the people internally are developing those expertise.
The report calls for better diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies, a recruitment policy that ensures a more diverse pool of candidates, along with cultural appreciation. In Rochester, Dan Schrack, 13 WHAM News.
And the school board declined to comment on that report. We want to remind you can always call our tip line with any questions or concerns about your child's education. You see the number on your screen, or you can also send us an email at 13whamclassroomtips@gmail.com.